Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Big Bold You, a show that was created to inspire each and every one of you out there to play bigger in your life. And believe me, I promise you, it is easier to play bigger than it is to play smaller, but you do have to be bolder. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to do things that you just don't think that you can do that I promise you can do. It's going to be scary. It is going to feel uncomfortable, but you've just got to do it because the world needs you playing bigger and they need you being the best version of you. So every episode, we have an incredible guest that comes on that shares their gifts and their talents, their experiences, their ups and downs, and a little bit of nuggets to make our lives better. Now, I'm so excited because, as you all know, I believe that we live in a world where there is a war between good and evil, and the only way evil wins is when good people don't do enough. And our guest today, Richard Jones, we are so excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
And I'm telling you, I'm so excited because this topic that we're going to be talking about today, which I think is as important and as significant and old as the world is. And that topic today is, do men and women communicate differently? So what's the answer?
Definitely. Yes. Definitely.
And what we want to know is why? Why do men and women, what are the major differences? And, if you're watching out there right now, as we go through this, feel free to shout out a question and we'll reach out. And we've got somebody here and we're going to go deep. And let me tell you, he's done his homework. And you and your wife, actually, this is something that you've done for quite some time. And how did you get involved in it and then start throwing some facts out at us?
So in 2012, my wife put together a workshop to help improve the effectiveness of teams in businesses. And she was doing a lot of research and she identified the biggest challenge was communication amongst the team players, okay? Especially co-ed teams or teams with a female leader. So she put together the workshop. She asked for my assistance. She has years of working in a male-dominated industry in male basketball in Germany. And from that experience, she learned how to communicate with men, but also how to work with women.
Right.
My experience between the Marine Corps and logistics, very similar. Lots of team building, lots of learning how to build effective teams. So this workshop, we would go into companies together and we would give the course. And the courses were always fun. They were always surprised that we were a husband and wife team. But I'm going to share some of the information that came out of the course.
Right. That's what we want to know. We want to know why do men and women struggle? Because we think differently. I mean, I think that's that's one of the biggest things we got to realize is that men and women think differently, and it's because we think differently that we communicate differently. But let's hear some of these differences and the reasons
why. So let's start with the filters. When you say something, you know your intent. I receive it a different way based on my filter. I'm either offended or I work with you based on my filter. What created my filter? My childhood. Your childhood created your filter. So what I'm about to say is 80% of the population. Think about a bell curve. You've got 10% on this side, 10% on this side, but in the middle, that's who I'm talking about.
Right.
Most boys grow up with a group of friends. Okay? They play, they do different things, but there's a group of them. They may not like everybody in the group, but they play with their group. And with that group, whatever they're playing, they come up with rules. They come up with who's the leader. There's a hierarchy. They know where they fit in within that hierarchy of that group. They learn to win. They learn to lose. They learn to accept defeat very early on. Most girls don't have a lot of friends growing up. They have a small select group that they play with. They pick who they like. They play games where there's not a winner or a loser. There's not a lot of competition. Remember the 80%.
Right.
So with the girls, you're playing with a friend that you like, and you spend a lot of time talking, building relationships. The boys are playing, more action, less talk. Translate that to the workplace. So now I'm a male in the workplace. I want to win. I want to be competitive. I don't need a lot of words to get across what I want.
Right.
And again, there's a hierarchy. If I'm the manager, I'm going to determine the project. I'm going to determine how we're going to do this. I may or may not accept your suggestions because I'm the leader of that team. It's the way I was raised.
Right, right.
If you're a female on a team, you want to build a relationship. You want input from multiple sources. You want it to be a team effort so that the team is successful. You care about the team. Already very different
Right, right, right.
from the childhood. Okay. For the male, in a traditional relationship, the male is the breadwinner for the family. He must provide for his family. The way you get a bigger house, a better car, is to continue to climb the corporate ladder. How do you do that? You have to be aggressive. You've got to be assertive. You've got to lead projects, be successful. A lot of women don't care about titles. They don't care about the corporate ladder. They want to be part of a successful team. There's a flat structure when it comes to women. I want to make sure everybody on the team is successful. So when you have a board meeting or a meeting and it's a co-ed meeting, most of the time it's the males that speak the loudest, that argue, they get their point across, but they also get recognized. A lot of the ladies in those meetings, they're more passive, trying to be respectful, but they aren't heard. Their suggestions aren't heard, even though they may have a better suggestion.
Right, right. Well, also, to me, not only are you dealing with just girls grow up differently than boys grow up, and we know that. I mean, one of the things I did was for years, I was the chairperson for the Women's Sports Foundation. And one of the reasons why I was involved in that is because studies researching how males and females' self-esteem is actually mirrors one another till they get into adolescence. And then the adolescence, the boys' self-esteem continues to go up where the girls starts to decline. And a lot of that is surrounding organized sports. There is a magic and a truth that there's so many benefits to that organized sports environment. But the other thing too, and I'm interested to know your thoughts if this is something that you cover, is there's difference in a male brain versus a female brain.
Yes.
I mean, men do, like you said, men think more linear. They think more of, in channels where, women are like, we are all over. We can think about 5 or 10 things at the same time where men think about one thing at a time. So do you talk about the differences in the brain or more just the environment? Because, we're 50% biology, 50% of our environment.
So what we do in the workshop is it's a co-ed workshop. So we'll ask the men and women together, tell us some characteristics about men. And you'll hear assertive, confident, courageous, strong. Tell us some of the characteristics about female, loving, compassionate, caring, nurturing, all positive.
Right.
Then we separate the groups. I'll take the males one room, my wife will take the females in another room. And this is where we start having fun. So then we'll ask the males, what are the top 3 characteristic strengths of a male at work? He'll say confident, knowledgeable, strong, positive statements. If you ask women, what are the top 3 weaknesses of men in the workplace? They will say arrogant, obnoxious, know-it-all. The inverse of what the male said was his strength.
Right.
You already have a problem.
Well, too, I think it is. It's just we process things differently. We process them, and I think it's important that we realize that just what you're saying is there's good and there's good and strengths in both.
Sure.
So, I mean, obviously it's embracing the good characteristics of the women and the good characteristics of the men and making that work successfully.
Right.
So, as you continue on with your study and with your seminar, what are some other things that you cover?
So let me just cover one other piece before I cover that. So when we ask the women for their strengths, they will say multitasking and compassionate. When we ask the men for women's weaknesses in the workplace, they will say scatterbrained, overcommitted, and too emotional.
Well,
multitasking, scattered brain. Okay. It's very interesting the way we look at the same thing. But as a leader of a team, you need to acknowledge that and then use that to your benefit when you're talking to your team so you can empower your team and work from there. It's also important you understand the flat structure in the workplace. So let me back up with a different story. So when my wife first came from Germany, she was shopping. She met a lot of people in different places, and they would always say, "How are you? Hi, how are you?" And as she got ready to answer, they had already moved on. Already moved on. Okay. Today, when you guys leave here, how many people say, "How are you?" but do they really care? When you ask somebody, "How are they doing?" do you really care? I know you do.
Right.
I try to.
Right.
But the average person doesn't. So what does that do to the recipient?
Right.
So think about the workplace. If you're the manager, the boss, you come in, you see your team, you say, "How are you?" but you don't stop and listen, that person knows you don't really care about them.
Right.
But if you were to stop and listen, then you might be able to resolve something or help them with something. They now know you care, and now they're going to want to work harder for you, building that team.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just taking a few seconds to be a little bit more soft or compassionate.
Well, the thing is that most men, now I'm not, again, we're talking about the bell curve here.
Right.
Most men are more transactional. Most women are more relational. I mean,
Yes,
it's just how we were brought
Yes,
up. It's
yes.
what we care about. But to your point about really caring and living in the present. I mean, I don't know if did you watch any of the Kobe Bryant Gia
Yes.
service yesterday? And, a couple of the people, I think it was, oh gosh, Michael Jordan, when Michael Jordan was talking and he just talked about how you've got to be living in the present. I think human beings, whether they're male or female, even though we communicate differently because we think differently, I think it's really important that we understand we think differently because our brains are different. One of the things as I was looking through in my own research, women, we remember everything, right? We remember everything. We remember all the details. Well, it's because women have a larger hippocampus in their brain than men do. And it's so much larger that we truly do remember details in a different way than men do. And I'm sure you and your spouse have been in a conversation. I know my husband and I have been in a conversation where I can remember exactly what he's wearing. I can remember exactly what he said. I can, everything. And he's just like, and I just say, why don't you just give in and just say, okay, Jens, you're right in your memory because my memory is right. Well, there's a reason for that. And it's not that a male isn't paying attention to you. It's really not that. It's just their brain is differently. So you're going to communicate differently. And then, of course, what you brought up with, they are raised differently.
So let's transition to what you're talking about, the details.
Right.
So when women are growing up and they're building relationships, you build relationships through communication, through talking, through sharing. If you have a girlfriend and you ask her how was dinner, and if she only said it was good, you would think something's wrong with her and she's mad at you. Or she's mad at you.
Right.
Right? But if a male was to ask another male how was dinner and he said good, that's it.
Right.
It was a good meal, and he would just leave it at that.
Right.
Because men don't need all the extra communication to build that relationship or the rapport.
Right.
Right. One of the stories I like to tell is a husband comes home from wherever, he walks in, and he asks his wife, because tomorrow's trash day and they need to move the trash cans. He asks his wife, "Babe, did you move the trash can or do I need to?" Her response is, "Let me tell you about my day. The kids had a fever this morning. I took him to Dr. Johnson's office. I had to go to Longway because there was a train wreck. By the time I got there, his nurse practitioner, Mary, wasn't feeling good. I went to Target. I got eggs, I got bacon, I got milk. I left the bacon in the shopping cart."
Yeah.
So then he looks at her. He's got a decision to make. The average guy would be like, "But did you take the trash out?"
Right.
She's going to be upset that he didn't listen to what she just said.
Right. Now I'm a little bit like a man when it comes to that.
That's okay, bell curve. But the purpose of our course is to help people modify their response.
Right.
If you understand the communication style, in that same scenario, if he would have said, "Well, babe, you had a tough day or a challenging day," just acknowledge her day.
Yes.
And then say,
Richard, yes, that's what we're looking for.
But hold on. But then say, "Do I need to move the trash?" So that way he gets his answer and he acknowledges her day.
Right.
Or she could have modified her behavior by saying, no, I didn't move the trash because let me tell you about my day.
Right, exactly.
And then he would have had his answer, but still listened to what she had to say.
Yes. And, and I think that is, it's so important. And let me tell you, men and women are like this all the time, right? I mean, we are, and especially with your spouse or with your significant other, because you do live a crazy busy day, and whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you're a working mother, whether you're a stay-at-home father, whether you're a working dad, you've got demands on you, and so I almost think that we put on our best face when we are at the job. So I mean, to me, I don't know about y'all, and I'm interested to know what you think about that, Richard, is I feel like, they're on their best behavior at work. But then when you get home, that's when your communication really does break down, because you're tired, you're fatigued. And you mentioned, I think earlier, about how women are more emotional. Women tend to personalize things where men depersonalize things. For the most part, when you're talking with a male, they're not going to get as offended as quickly or as easily. Now, I know that's not true for everybody, because I know sometimes my husband, I feel like I'm like, why do you get so offended? You're like a girl. That's what I'll say to him. Now, that's not nice, right? That's not nice. But when you take the Myers-Briggs personality test, my personality type is 1% female. It's 99% male, so I understand this. But when you're talking about husbands and wives, I love that example that you just gave. What are some other examples when you're talking with your spouse of how you can communicate? Because we all know
Sure.
women do speak 50% more than men.
So I have two examples. One is a husband and wife are driving down the road. The wife sees a sign. The husband is driving. The wife sees a sign, last Starbucks for 15 miles. She asks him, do you want a coffee? He says no and keeps driving. Okay? She's now upset for the next 12 miles. He doesn't know why.
Oh, I know why, Richard.
Exactly.
I know why. I can tell you why right now.
But if you had two females and it was the same scenario and she asked her girlfriend, do you want to stop for coffee? The driver would have picked up, maybe she doesn't, but she still would have pulled in 10 minutes, grabbed a coffee, everybody's happy.
Right. But that is also a brain issue. And I can't remember exactly the part of the brain, but women, there's a part of the brain that deals more with they're more intuitive. So and than men are.
Sure.
And so for women, we can sense what somebody's thinking, we can sense what somebody wants, we can read expressions on faces better. It was fascinating because I was doing a little bit of research and how women in any situation can look at somebody's expression and pick up on what's going on, where a man, they don't even notice the expression because they're just not even looking for it.
So let's transition to that. So when women are talking, women face each other, physically face each other. If they're at an establishment, they will turn their chairs so that they look eye to eye. There's also certain movement, and you're doing a lot of it, which is fine. But women will nod when the other person is talking.
I do that all the time.
Most women do. Watch TV, watch any conversation between a woman and anybody, and she's doing a lot of nodding. She doesn't always agree, but she's acknowledging that I hear you, I'm engaged, I'm present. Men, for the most part, will face this way, have a conversation, never look at each other, not worried about what's happening over here.
It's so true.
But it is true because we don't, for the most part, if he grunts every once in a while and says yes, no, yeah, I'm okay. I know he's still there. And if he gets up and leaves, I'm not worried about it because he's going to come back.
Yeah, you don't even care where he's going. No. Women are like, where are you going? How long are you going to be on? Do you want me to go with you?
Right.
All that other stuff.
So a lot of times, and even though my wife and I give this workshop, we still are human and we still make these mistakes. So sometimes I'll go out with a friend or whoever, meet somebody new, a male, and have a great conversation, in my opinion. Come home, tell my wife, I met this guy, John, super nice guy. What'd you guys talk about? Just stuff. Well, is he married? No idea. Does he have kids? No idea. What does he do for a living? No idea. How long did you
Right.
guys talk? 2 hours. Are you going to see him again? Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
might see him around.
Right, because it doesn't matter.
No.
I mean, what you're talking about really doesn't matter.
No.
And where women, I mean, we really want to get deep. And we want to understand and we want to learn about people. And again, it's the difference, but you think about that in the workplace.
Yes,
So
yes,
in
yes,
the workplace, you've got women
Yes.
who want and need
Yes.
a deeper connection.
Yes.
And so how do you solve for that?
So you take the workshop, $49.95 per
Right.
person. Now, you take the workshop and you learn to modify your behaviors. So if you have a female on the team, you engage with her and you be genuine and you be a person and you get to know them a little bit and you say hello and how are things today, or how are the kids, or how was the game last week, or whatever is going on in their life. When it comes to men and women, think about two circles. One circle is work, one circle is personal, family. Most men are in one circle at a time.
Right,
They
it's the
don't talk a lot
channels.
about home life at work. They don't talk a lot about work at home. Women, their circles are overlapped. So a lot of times, even at work, they're engaged what's going on personally. So if you're observant, male or female boss, you come in, you see when your female employee, she's not her normal self. Ask her what's going on. If you have the time, take her off to the side to a conference room in your office and just give her a chance to vent. She may say, I've got a sick kid and I'm worried how I'm going to get him before I get off my shift.
Right.
Well, look at your schedule. If you can let her go early, that's a win. That's a bonus.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And you've built a rapport with that employee just because you cared to ask.
Right.
You noticed something was off.
Well, now for a
And it works male, female.
well, that's what I was going to say is so you've got a female boss,
Right.
And obviously we're more intuitive. We can
depending upon her percentage.
okay, right, that's true. But for a female though, I mean, how do you for female executives? I mean, what are some tips that you give to female executives or for female entrepreneurs? Because I know we've got a lot of entrepreneurs that watch the show and that are also involved in organizations that we're involved in.
So for female leaders, executives, if they're using most of their male brain or their male communication style in the workplace, don't be afraid to switch back to your female communication style with females on your team. Remember the flat structure. Some of the people on your team aren't going to respect your position just because you're the boss. If you know that in advance and you see somebody's not behaving a certain way, you can soften, be more compassionate, approach them, engage with them, and then maybe help them. And now they see you more as a person versus just the boss.
But it's interesting because as we're talking about this, obviously I've been in corporate America, I've been an entrepreneur, I've been in network marketing, and I've been a leader in all of those industries. And it's interesting because I always, because I am a female, obviously, I always feel that that statement that you just made, people aren't going to respect me just because of the position I have. I know that's true. I know that people obviously do respect me because of the position that I hold, but I don't think that way. I think it's my job and responsibility to treat everybody wonderful and great, to earn people's respect by the way that I treat them. But I don't know, do men think that way?
So it depends on how you carry yourself. The men may respect the title. They may not respect you as an individual.
No, but I mean like men leaders. Like, so here I am
Well,
as
but-
a leader.
Sure, but men leaders expect you to honor their title.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
There is no flat structure with men because of the hierarchy. Male
That's
or
it.
female and subordinates.
Right. See, that's exactly what I'm thinking. And I never even thought about this until we had this conversation because in a leadership position, like I said, I don't expect somebody to respect me just because of my title, but I believe that men do.
Yes, but take it back to the household, the head of the household. I'm the father, I'm the dad, I'm the provider, I'm whatever title you want to give them.
Right.
They expect the respect. They expect the respect that comes with that title.
Right.
Same thing in the workplace. I've worked hard to get this title. You will honor my title.
I know, but you know what? See, what's so crazy is, I mean, I don't know about you women out there, but especially those that have had children, I feel like I've put in a lot of work and I've done a lot And still, what you said, it's the expectation. I think a lot of communication breakdown it's what people expect. And so even having that conversation in a team, in a work environment, or even at home, what is it that you expect? Like you were saying, I mean, what do you expect of me? And vice versa. Because I'm all about managing expectations. If you know what somebody expects, I think your communication is improved. You've got a nice little.
So one of our slides, we talk about being a team player and what are the male expectations of a team player. Not 100%, but this is our perspective. Follow orders, support the goal without questioning, do what is asked of you, knowing your slot on the hierarchy.
I mean, I'm telling you, the without questioning part's going to be a problem.
It is for a lot of people. It is.
You know what I mean? I mean, honestly, for women want to be able to say, hold on a second now, what are we doing and why are we doing this?
Right.
And maybe there's a better way.
And that word why, you women love asking why. You love it. Why? But the interesting part is you don't always care about the why. Because if we try and explain
we just
the why.
want to talk about it.
Exactly. Yes.
But I think for women is just being aware of the whole process and understanding everything is, then you have more buy-in and you want that.
It's the relationship is being included.
Exactly.
So I have another scenario that I want to share, both in the workplace and at home. The title of this workshop used to be called From the Boardroom to the Bedroom because it's applicable at both home and work.
Right.
So when a woman wants to vent or talk to her partner, the partner has to decide, does she want me to listen or does she want me to solve it?
Right.
That right there, if you can decide that lane before you get started.
But I'm going to tell you the answer to that one too. We just want you to listen.
Okay, but if you were to tell us that up front.
I know, but sometimes we do, right? We will say, I just want you to listen. Don't solve this problem for me. But I think sometimes it's just so innate.
Right,
And
right.
again, that right there is 100% a brain issue as well. It's the way that men's brains operate versus females' brains. And so I think that you men probably have great intent when we tell you, hey, we just want you to listen. But it's so hard because your brain is pushing you to solve the problem.
So come back to the provider, come back to the head of the household, come back to, I love you, I want to protect you, I want to help you. What you're sharing with me hurts. I feel your pain, I want to relieve your pain. So the intent is there.
Right, and the intent is
So
good.
the method is wrong.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, when it comes to women, they want to ask questions, get input. But the interesting part is they like getting input from multiple sources.
Right.
They like talking to 5, 10 friends to get input. And they may not go with the input from their partner, but from the partner perspective, you didn't listen to me.
So are your feelings hurt?
Yes. Yes, they are. And not only are they hurt, we feel disrespected.
Oh my gosh, I hope my husband's watching this because he says that all the time. He talks about respect, and he said there's a book, and of course I can't remember the name of the book, but he's like, one of the most important things for men is to feel respected.
Yes.
And of course for women we want to be listened to, and so it's different. But so if we don't take your idea, you're going to feel disrespected. And here's the thing, Richard, and you know this, we're talking about real communication breakdown.
Yes.
I mean, and we're talking that these communication breakdowns cause a lot of pain and hurt, and a lot of times even divorce.
Yes.
Because you're not communicating, but you've got the physiology of the brain that's different. You've got the environment, how you grow up is different. But then we're living in a world right now, and the world that we live in, you've got more women in the workplace, you've got more leaders, you've got more equality, which equal isn't same. I get that, but I mean, how are we going to make this problem better?
So conversations like this, podcasts like this, education.
Right.
Right. As people get educated and they share, If you know of a couple that's struggling with communication, you can share this with one or both of them.
Right.
Right. So the power of just sharing information.
Right.
The other thing I was going to say is when it comes to love and respect. So men give love when they feel respected. Women give respect when they feel loved.
That's so true.
So
Say
for
that
one-
again. Say that again,
Sure.
Richard.
So men give love when they feel respected by their partner.
Right.
Okay. Women give respect when they feel love from their partner. So if the woman is not giving her partner love, she's giving him or her disrespect. If the partner is receiving disrespect,
They're not
it's
gonna give
harder to
love.
give love.
Right.
Because being disrespected is a sign of weakness.
Right. And I'm telling you, that is the cycle
Yes.
that
Yes.
so many people are in.
They are.
So give us some tips on how you can break that cycle.
So one or both partners need to understand you've got to step away from the energy. When you're in the cycle, take a few minutes, tell that person, I love you, but I need a few minutes. Cool your jets, calm down, collect yourself, then come back and tell them, I'm feeling disrespected. It's difficult for me to give you love. And you're disrespecting me in this way. Because a lot of times the person that's doing the disrespect doesn't understand what they're doing.
And you know what? That is such a good point because you're so right. I mean, for a female, if we're listening to our significant other's idea that happens to be a man,
Right.
and then we go ask our girlfriends, and
Right.
then our girlfriend says, this is better. And I'm going to be 100% honest and transparent with you. You know, I think the smartest thing to do is go to somebody who has success in a certain area. And so even if I'm talking about something, and even if I'm talking to my spouse about it, and he provides me some information, but then I go and I talk to somebody who has more knowledge on that topic,
Right.
obviously I'm going to do it. And I will tell him, I'll say, but this person's got more experience on this topic. So really, I shouldn't even have that conversation.
No, not true. Not true.
What do you think?
No, what my suggestion, I was going to tell you what to do. My suggestion is you tell your partner, I heard your idea. I like it or I don't like it. However, I'm going to go collect more information. And I'm going to take bits and pieces from everything that I collect and I'm going to move on.
What if I'm not going to take bits and pieces?
Then you come back and you say, you know what? I made a decision. I made a decision. You lost, right? And you move on. But hear me out though. If you go to your partner 10 times, you ask for information, all 10 times you do not use their information, why would that person give you information on the 11th time?
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying.
But you need to recognize you're doing that.
Right,
so
exactly.
that you stop going to them.
Right. Or just even having the conversation of, here's what I'm thinking. This is what I want to do. Feel free to weigh in, but I want to talk with somebody. I mean, would that be disrespectful?
It's not disrespectful when you say feel free to weigh in and you never use their information.
Well, now, I do use information sometimes.
There you go.
You need to have one of those. You and your wife need to have one of those services where it's the texting service. I mean, I actually had a really good friend of mine one time who was talking about having a texting counseling service. And, for some topics, that may not work, but this would be
Yes.
a topic that honestly really could work,
Yes.
where
Yes.
you could have somebody text you and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking, right?
So the advice that we give in the workshop to the ladies is if you need to vent or if you need ideas, call your girlfriend.
Right.
Just
right.
make that your routine. Call your girlfriend, right? In our house, if we get in a situation and she starts getting a little long-winded about, whoa, what is all this information you're giving me?
Right,
Do you
right.
need to call a girlfriend? And then she'll laugh, and then she'll realize that she's just wearing me out with information.
Right.
That's not relevant to anything that I can do anything about.
Well, another thing, when I was doing my research, there's a book that was written, and it's basically gender differences, and it's 6 fascinating differences between men and women. And I actually think that's the name of the book. But it is, I think, 6 differences between men and women. But one of the things they talked about is how men have more testosterone, obviously, than women do. And that when men are they have a success in the day or they feel successful, obviously it increases their testosterone, but then they have to basically recharge. And so men literally do, after a long day or after a hard day or after a hard conversation, they need to recharge themselves and they need to rest. And let me tell you, when I was reading this, I was dying laughing because I can't tell you how many times my husband will work all day and then he's just there on the couch. And I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, like, get up, go do something, and he's like, I plan to rest like this. I plan. Well, what I was reading about, it was talking how men honestly do need to regenerate some testosterone.
Yes.
And that's what they're doing, ladies.
Yes. So I have another scenario for you. This one's a little bit more traditional, but if the male is working outside the house, the wife is managing the house at home. When the husband comes home, give him a little bit of time.
That's
right?
what they're saying.
Because a lot of, especially stay-at-home moms, want the husband, as soon as he walks in the door, to take the kids.
Right.
Engage with her, listen to her day. And then she'll say, you just spent an hour driving home. You had all that time by yourself.
Right.
Well, he was in traffic. He was engaged. He wasn't relaxing. But if she knows just to give him 30 minutes, 15 minutes,
Right.
then he's going to be much more approachable.
Right. And that really, I think it's so fascinating because obviously I knew you were coming on the show and we were going to talk about this. And I think it's funny because you look at comedians, they're always talking about the differences between men and women. One of my favorite all-time comedians is Dave Chappelle. And Dave Chappelle and I, we actually share the same birthday. We're both Virgos. He's amazing. I think he's hysterical. And he does this bit, in some of his stand-up, how when his wife will say, David, and he's just like, oh no, and she's like, we need to talk, and he's like, oh no, we need to talk. We need to talk.
Right.
And one of the things he says is every time we need to talk, that means there's something I got to do because we need to talk.
Right.
So it's funny, but at the same time, it also, like we said, it causes a lot of pain. And I think that even as we're talking about it right now, having a conversation, doing some research yourself, you and your spouse, you and your coworkers, you and your team at work, your life team, whoever it is that you interface with, really, this is a very important topic to discuss, to understand. And so, how can people get in touch with you so they can get more information like this?
So the easiest way is to reach me at Jordan, Jordan, 1775 at yahoo.com. Just tell me you're interested in the workplace gender communication or just gender communication, and we can start a conversation from there.
Okay. Now, do you and your wife have some type of social media page or group where you've got people that join and you provide information on this topic? Because if you don't, y'all need to.
So we don't today because we both have transitioned into our independent business that we're doing now. This is something we've done in the past and something I like to share because, as you can see, it's applicable in almost every situation. But that's definitely
Amazing.
something we can look at creating.
Well, I just think it would be very helpful. I think it would be helpful for there would be a community where that's the main focus. And and honestly, I'm not kidding when I say I'm gonna have to send you a text sometimes. And I know you, because this is a problem. I have a problem. I'm not kidding you. I really do have a problem with this. This topic. Number one, I come from a big family. There's 3 girls, 3 boys in our family. My dad was a professional tennis player. My mother is a very strong person. And she's in hospice right now. I don't know if you knew that or not, but she's in hospice. And when you grow up and you're a strong female and you have a strong female as a mother. And, my dad, as a professional tennis player, and then, of course, he worked after that, he was just always so respectful of my mom. And so when you're a daughter and you're brought up in that environment, then you just think, okay, hold on a second. And then you get into corporate America and you have success in corporate America. But at the same time, you don't know what you don't know. You can't see what you can't see.
Right.
And we always have blind spots and we always can get better and improve. And I just think if there was a community on social media that was very easy for us to access, and we could have these conversations. Even, I mean, I'm telling you, I know people don't want to, I should say, most people don't want to put their dirty laundry on their social media. But my gosh, if we had a platform and there was a private group and we could go in and say, okay, here's what happened, give us some thoughts.
Right.
It would help, Richard. I really believe that it would help. So how many of y'all want he and his wife to do that? I do. I'm voting for it. I say do it, because I think it would be tremendous. Now, one of the things that we do to close up our show is we have an Ask Jen's question. And this Ask Jen's question I'm really excited about because it came from Richard's group. And that is, what advice do you have for the new entrepreneur? And in my opinion, one of the two most important, number one, hitch your wagon to real leaders. And number two is be coachable. And if you are coachable and if you're not resistant and you're hitched your wagon to some really good leaders, they can advise you, they can direct you, and just do what they say. One of the things I've told people my whole entire life, I win and succeed at everything I do, not because I am smart and I know it all, but because I find the people that do know it all, that have the success in the area that I want success. I ask them what to do, and then I just do what they say to do. I mean, at the end of the day, that is my advice. Richard, do you have any advice that you want to add into that?
Yes. Love your partner, talk to your partner, and communicate. They're different. They share information differently, but you can save your relationship if you do more talking.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And Richard, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on. We do need to go out with my husband because I'm going to have him watch the show. Dave, you're going to watch the show and we're going to talk about it because I think you brought up some extremely great points and we do need to talk about it more. Mm-hmm. And I want to say before we close our show today, and I don't even know if you know this, Richard, but I am going to be transitioning. So no longer will I be doing the Big Bold You show here, but no need to fear. I have enjoyed my time so much at On Air Media. And because of some things that they've got, I'm no longer to do just every other week. You know, I did this. I've been doing this podcast now for 20 months. Mm-hmm. I love it. In my corporate job, one of the things I did was I was executive producer for a TV show that we had. So never in my life did I think I was going to be doing this again. And I love it. It's great. But I will be transitioning to a different podcast, and the name of that podcast is called The Impact. So I don't know about you, but you know, there's the morning of your life and then there's the afternoon of your life. And the morning of your life is when you are all about getting, gaining, accomplishing, just all about the things that you can do and achieve and get personal recognition. Well, when you move into the afternoon of your life, it's more about purpose, meaning, and impact. And this is going to be a podcast. We've got 4 podcast hosts, and we are going to be talking about impact. And we're going to be talking about purpose and meaning and how we can live more fulfilled lives. So don't worry, you're still going to be able to see me. We're still going to have guests that are going to come on. But here's one thing. You know, you and I had a great conversation, mm-hmm. but we could go so much deeper in this topic.
Definitely.
We could go so much deeper. Yes. And that's one of the things that I've learned within this 20 months is that when you have a set group, you know, so we'll have 4 hosts, we'll have the ability to really go deep and deep and deep. And we're also going to amplify the impact of other Passion Dallas leaders in the area. So we will 100% love to have you on that podcast. I want to thank each and every one of the people here at On Air Media. Ziggy, you're amazing. I mean, so amazing. I definitely will have to come back and shoot some webinars and do some other things here because I've loved the family, Melissa and Jagger and all of the people here. So I just like to say is, you know, when one door closes, another one opens. Keep on keeping on. And until we meet again, be big, be bold, and most importantly, be you. Bye-bye.